Is it true? Could a full repeal of Obamacare be happening? Democrats see things the way they see things because they're too caught up in their own propaganda. And school funding in schools and the effect of schools on society and schooling you. It's all coming up next on The Michael Newman Show.
Access denied.
I did not go.
Don't tase me, bro. No. Don't tase me.
No.
What difference at this point does it make?
I feel terrible.
How is that okay?
I know words. I have the best words.
I am acting here.
I'm mouthy!
I've got a lot of things on my plate.
This isn't food!
This is garbage.
Shut up. Because I think that's what you are entitled to.
Now you see that evil will always triumph because good is dumb.
This is not funny.
Welcome to The Michael Newman Show. I am Michael Newman. Please go to the website, michaelnewmanproductions.com. If you do that, you can get in contact with me via email, however you want to do that. Just click the contacts link. You can also check out all my social media. Newmaniac1 is my Twitter account. I try to tweet out on a regular basis, and that's a great way to get the show because it just pops up right there in front of you, plus Facebook and YouTube and all that cool stuff. Check the services link to see what I can do for you as far as business services and voiceover and production and all that cool stuff. Support the show. There's a big blue button there. It's kind of square with the edges rounded off. It says support. If you click that, takes you to my Patreon page, and from there you can decide to help me out, and I need that as much as possible. You can support the show for as little as $1 a month. That would really help me out, my friends, and at least retweet, send out the links to all your friends and say, hey, check this show out. Maybe we can grow the show that way. That would be very helpful. Plus, if you go to the website, michaelnewmanproductions.com, all the links to the stories that we talk about today will be right there for you to digest, and then the juices, and you pull it out, and it's there. Yeah, pretty much. All right. What is happening today? Lots of things happening in healthcare. Of course, the vote on the Senate bill is a no-go. They don't have enough votes for it. Some other people backed out of support of the Senate bill for good reason, because it was going to be bad for the Republicans. And in its place, now we have Mitch McConnell saying that, hey, we're going to come out with a vote, and it's going to be a full repeal vote. He released a statement saying, regretfully, it now appears that the effort to repeal and immediately replace Obamacare is a failure. He said it exactly like that. But actually, it was a written statement, so I can bring whatever voice to it that I wish to. So, in the coming days, Mitch McConnell, when I look at his face and the way he talks, I just think that his poop comes out like stars. Okay? You know what I'm talking about? The Play-Doh thing? You know the Play-Doh thing, your kids have it, and sometimes when your kids aren't around, you're like, oh, this is kind of fun. Where you put the Play-Doh in the deal and you shove the thing down, and it's got little dyes in there, and then it poops out a star or a heart or whatever you want it to poop out, whatever dye you have. I think his butthole is so tight that they literally have to get some sort of hydraulic compression device to push on his gut, and then it comes out in these little coils of stars. That's what I think when I think of Mitch McConnell. No, I'm not normal. The Senate will vote to take up the House bill with the First Amendment in order, being what a majority of the Senate has already supported in 2015. Okay, they had a bill, full replacement bill, in 2015. Of course, everybody voted for it. House voted for it. Senate voted for it. Of course, they did that because, of course, President Obama was going to veto it. They didn't have the votes to override a veto, so there was really no danger there in actually having to do something and fulfill a promise for the American people. In fact, I do believe that this is kind of a strategy to get back at the conservatives, right? This is a strategy to bring people, okay, we're going to have to do something. We're going to end up getting more and more Obamacare. It's going to be bigger and bigger, and the more subsidies, more spending of money. I think that's how this is going to end. I really do believe they hope the bill fails. That way they can keep blaming others other than themselves. Maybe some of these people have a pipe dream of, I think we could continue to blame Obama, couldn't we? Well, it's Obamacare. We named it. There you go. We'll blame him. We couldn't get rid of it. or probably blame conservatives, right? We had this bill. We had the bill in the Senate, and we had a House bill. You didn't like any one of those bills, and they were bipartisan, and they were going to do some good stuff, and the American people were going to really love these bills, and it was going to fix health care from now and all time, and you didn't want that. You wanted some total replacement because you're a bunch of jerks out there, and you're not very compassionate, and there's people without health insurance, and we just can't have that. So now we got Obamacare, and that's going to be all you conservatives' fault, and I know Obamacare is real bad, but essentially the conservatives have voted for Obamacare. That may be the narrative that gets circulated out there. So just understand, we're not winning until we've won. We're not winning until we've won. And I don't know that we're going to get there. But I guess it's a positive. It might be Debbie Downer. I'm sorry. It is sort of a positive thing that apparently we're going to get a Senate vote to just simply do away with Obamacare and then replace it with something else or start piecemealing it out later on. And, you know, there's a reason why everyone doesn't deserve health care paid for by me. There's a reason for that. Because some people are just stupid. They're dumb. And I don't want to pay for dumb people's health care. It's that simple. A bizarre medical case in Great Britain, which, of course, everybody's paying for. A British woman somehow had more than 24 contact lenses in one eye, but didn't realize it. Yeah, the case was published in the July 5th British Medical Journal, has made international headlines after an ophthalmologist responsible for extracting the stack of contact lenses spoke to the media recently, according to the British Medical Journal. The case itself occurred back in November when a 67-year-old woman went to the doctor for a routine eye surgery. Okay, she went to the doctor, needed an eye surgery. I would imagine there's a couple of things here. Well, here's the thing. She goes into an eye surgery. It's not like you just walk in off the street, think I need me some eye surgery. You would think there would be a referral for the surgery, right? Which means another physician, eye specialist, had looked at the eye and went, yep, eye surgery, here you go. I believe it was for cataracts. You need the eye surgery, go talk to the surgeon. You would think that would be the case. And you would think that first guy would have been like, you know what, there's something in here. Oh my God. But apparently not. When the surgeon began, he extracted a, quote, blue mass of 17 contact lenses all stuck together. Ugh. Later, the doctors found another chunk of 10 contact lenses, bringing the total to 27. Ugh. According to the patient, she was wearing monthly disposable contact lenses for 35 years. Apparently, she forgot to take them out on a couple of occasions, but did not regularly go to the eye doctor and had no idea that so many contacts were in her eye. The woman credited her discomfort, because that couldn't feel good. You know, it's got to hurt. Discomfort to old age and dry eyes. I don't want to pay for her eye surgery. I shouldn't have to pay for her eye surgery. She's a moron. Matter of fact, maybe she deserves to go blind in one eye. That's all I have to say about it. So let's look at this from, hey, I've been Debbie Downer. Let's be Mr. Positivo. Maybe that's a new character. Mr. Positivo. That's a new character for me. I have to come up with an accent. It'll be fun. Anyway, what's going to happen? Let's say we get everything we want with healthcare. The Obama administration tried to take over healthcare, dismantle everything that was good about the private sector, make people so disenchanted with it that they would be open to nationalized healthcare. They institute nationalized healthcare, and then suddenly the government controls our healthcare from now on into the future. It'll never stop. There's no possible way to get rid of nationalized healthcare. That's what they were looking for. Maybe at this point in time, there's been enough pushback over the past 7 years that we can dismantle Obamacare in one fell swoop, and then suddenly people like Rand Paul are coming in with these bills, and they get accepted with free and open market solutions. We begin to deregulate. We scale back the FDA. We start doing the things that put healthcare on the same sort of even keel as engineering would be, like the iPhones would be. So you're over the next 20, 30 years, the American healthcare system is going to be not only the finest, it's ever been, but the finest in the world by so great of a margin that we can't possibly even understand it today. Maybe that's going to happen. Maybe we're at the very opening days of that being the case. Okay? Let's just assume that. And tomorrow, there's no Obamacare, and we're well on the way to fixing it. Well on the way to getting back a sixth of the U.S. economy. Well, if that's the case, that we're going to get back the sixth of the U.S. economy, it's going to be back in our hands again, in the free market's hands again, and we'll have control over it. The government isn't going to give up because they have to have more. They have to have more and more power. And healthcare is a great way to get power over people because you get to decide who lives and who dies. Another great way to get power over people is religion. That's right. Religion and religious belief. God told me to. In this case, Gaia told me to. And we shall do it all for Gaia, Mother Earth, and the environment. Yes. So what do they have on the back burner? Things like cap and trade. Two well-known names in the Republican Party establishment are weighing in on Governor Jerry Brown out of California's cap and trade proposal. Former Governor Pete Wilson and former U.S. Secretary of State George P. Shultz issued letters Monday backing the proposal, which faces a decisive vote. So let's go with the cap and trade. They say it's the least negative option within the state's existing effort to combat climate change. Well, it's not. It's the best of what they got, right? What is it? Okay. Does that mean they're going to stop, number one? Once they get cap and trade, are they going to stop with everything else? Or are they going to push for those even worse options in the future? So why give them this? Right? What's the point in giving them? How is it a win to give cap and trade to these people? I don't see it as a win, and frankly, it's not. And this all just days after that peer-reviewed, we talked about it here on the show, peer-reviewed paper that showed that the warming trend that has been touted over the past couple of years or so, frankly, to combat the pause, when news started talking about the pause and the fact that the temperatures hadn't changed in 20 years, then suddenly this new study comes out and says, oh no, that's all completely wrong. And we've been on a constant warming trend the entire time, and it's the hottest ever, right? That's when these numbers came out, and they've been touted over and over and over for the past couple of years. Well, this new peer-reviewed paper comes out, and it says that these new numbers are fraudulent. They're just made up, basically. And it's out there. It's circulating. No one seems to want to listen to it. But it is a peer-reviewed paper. It is the science that should be accepted. And no one, at least within the sphere of politics, wants to take a look at that sort of information, because this is not about truth. This is not about science. And this is not about reality. It's about a religious belief that certain people have, and big government types have decided it's a great way to gain more power over the American people. Understand this. Environmentalism has made the air you breathe poisonous and dangerous to the planet. You breathe out CO2, and quite a lot of CO2 over the course of your life, and so does every other living being out there. So with each breath you take, you are polluting the environment, because CO2 is now officially a pollutant according to the EPA, which is ridiculous, because our pollutant, it's called the circle of life, people, our pollutant is plant food. So if you want to green the environment, guess this is what you do. Release more CO2. And we found that to be the case. As particulates of CO2 in the atmosphere have, the concentrations of those have increased over the past, decades or so. Even satellite photos have shown a tremendous greening of the planet, meaning more trees, more plant life, because they have more to eat. It's that simple. So it's a ridiculous, human-hating, person-hating, people-hating religion that wishes to kill people in favor of the planet. And now we've got more people, people from the Republican Party throwing in, because it's the best of bad options, as if the rest of those bad options won't be put into place as well. So that's what they've got coming up after healthcare. Isn't that nice? Cap and trade. Yeah, we're literally going to legislate the air you breathe. Thank you much, government, you wonderful, wonderful peoples. People think the way they do, generally, because of their environment. If you choose to put yourself in an environment that has multitudes of different types of thought, if you choose to sequester yourself and study on the things that you've heard, if you choose to have a world view that you can support, that you, not research is the wrong word, but you argue your point of view. And to argue your point of view, you understand the points of view of other people and become more well-rounded. If you're one of those people, this doesn't apply. But for the vast majority of specifically young people and the left, they don't do that. That's too much work. And frankly, thinking is a lot of work. It really is. Because sometimes when you're thinking, you're debating with yourself, right? So you don't know which side is better because you have feelings and thoughts on both sides. And it takes a long time for you to come to a conclusion. But once you do come to that conclusion, hopefully it's the correct one. Now, if you don't expose yourself to other things and other peoples and other ways of thinking, if you choose to sequester yourself away from that information, then you will just simply accept as fact anything that you were told because you have nothing to compare it to, nothing to compare and contrast. An MRC Newsbusters analysis of the big three television networks shows that in prime time, they concluded the controversial June 26 meeting received 20 times as much coverage as a similar Clinton scandal did back in 2015. Okay, so this new, I believe, the Kushner email and all that stuff, it has received 20 times more coverage than a similar Clinton scandal. ABC, NBC, and CBS, still reached by more than 20 million people across this country. Shows gave the Trump-Russia scandal 62 minutes and 18 seconds of coverage over 4 nights, while giving a 2015 scandal involving Hillary Clinton only 3 minutes and 1 second. 3 minutes and 1 second versus 62 minutes and 18 seconds. That is propaganda that is surrounding yourself with one worldview and pushing it. The Clinton scandal that we're talking about here also involves Russia and the selling of uranium rights to the Russian government, for which somebody kicked back something to the Clinton Family Crime Foundation. And notice, by the way, have you heard anything about the Clinton Foundation and their wonderful works of late? No. Why? Because they shut down because they had no more political capital, no more political influence to sell, and that's the only reason why the Clinton Family Crime Foundation was existent in the first place. So there you go. Isn't that fun? And when you're surrounded by a specific worldview, now it's a little bit different when you're a politician because you're actually the provocateur. You're the one trying to push your initiatives, and you're the one trying to gain power. But it's amazing how far afield they will go in making their arguments. In an interview Sunday, Jonathan Karl on ABC was the interviewer here. It was The Week. Representative Adam Schiff acknowledged it would be appropriate for Democrats to receive any assistance from the Ukrainian government that they would provide. Now, this is in relation to a January Politico story, an investigative story that connected the Ukraine government officials to Democrat operatives. According to Politico's report, Karl read from the story and then asked, because it was this Ukrainian deal actually did have an effect on the election. Paul Manafort got caught up in some different things, and he ended up having to walk away from the Trump administration. There are solid, concrete things that can be tied to this deal, and it was exactly what we're talking about with the Trump administration, or at least they're alluding to with the Trump administration, the conspiracy theory of the Trump administration dealing with the Russian government. We actually have proof and facts that show that the Democrats did, in fact, contact the Ukrainian government and try to get them to help in influencing our election systems. The Ukrainians are trying to change the vote here in the United States, but according to Adam Schiff, that's completely fine.
It would be appropriate for the Democrats to accept help from the Ukrainian government. But I think if you look at the Politico article, and we're talking about just a single article here, if you accept all the facts in the article, the scale of what the Russians did is not comparable to anything in that article. If it were, the comparable analogy would be that the Ukrainian president directed the Ukrainian intelligence agencies to hack Donald Trump's campaign, steal emails, publish them, directed a social media army to influence the election, and its representatives sat down with Chelsea Clinton and John Podesta, in which they indicated they wanted the dirt on Donald Trump. It would be problematic to get any kind of support from a foreign government. But again, I think to compare the two is a bit like comparing bank robbery with writing a check with insufficient funds.
Okay. Well, one was so much bigger. No, actually not, because the one that you're talking about that's so much bigger, this supposed conspiracy between the Trump administration and the Russian government, is all completely fabricated. That's the difference. It's a fabricated collusion. It's a fabricated conspiracy theory that you're conflating to be bigger than it actually was. At the end of the day, what did the Russian government do? They tweeted. They sent out news stories and they told people exactly who Hillary Clinton was. But that's the problem. See, if you explain and pass out truths to the American people, actual real facts to the American people so that they can better make a vote, and that vote turns out in opposition to the leftist candidate, then that truth must be destroyed, because truth is not a value. It's only winning and gaining more power. And, certainly, I'm sure there was a bunch of Hillary Clinton kickbacks, too. I mean, they were making millions upon millions, hundreds of millions of dollars selling political influence. They have done that their entire life, their entire political career. Bill Clinton did that when he was president of the United States, selling the Lincoln bedroom to people. And God knows what else. They are the most corrupt people in the existence of politics in this country, bar none. And everybody's protecting them. And, oh no, what they did is not important. What they did is not important. It's this Trump guy. And it's simply, you have to be such a partisan hack to think that. And base this horrible Trump guy and everything that he's done on this conspiracy theory, whereas we have facts about on the ground of what happened with Hillary Clinton, what she did, but we're not supposed to look at that. By the way, I'll bring this up. I've said it a couple of different times. This has got to be the number one mistake, at least in my mind, that Donald Trump has made as yet. And that is not going after Hillary Clinton to begin with. That should have been the absolute first thing that he did. He should have sent the Attorney General and the entire Justice Department, an army of people going after everyone, going after Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, Chelsea Clinton, the entire Clinton gang, everyone involved in Clinton Family Crime Foundation, and then start shaking loose like the Podestas and everybody else that's involved and seeing where it goes. Because if you're really going to drain the swamp, that's what you have to drain it from, is corruption. You have to drain the corruption out of the government. But that wasn't done. I guess he was trying to be political, magnanimous, and just, okay, I won, no sour grapes here. He should have gone after her on day one. That would have done two things. Number one, we would have started learning a hell of a lot more about the Clintons and the Democratic process, or the Democratic Party, and actually how they do business. And maybe thrown some people in jail, and maybe really got rid of some corruption in our government. That would have been one. And number two, it would have controlled the narrative, right? This Russian thing would have never taken off if everybody was surrounding the Clintons, trying to run interference for Bill and Hillary Clinton, because they're being constantly hounded and investigated by the Trump administration. And by the way, here's a third little ancillary fact that would have been good for you, Mr. Trump. People in this country, now you would have seen a lot of polls saying, he should drop it, but the people that voted for you would not be saying drop it, because we were saying lock her up from the beginning. And kind of, guess what, Donald? You lied. You lied about locking her up. And It never happened. Broken promise, and it's a really big broken promise because it was a huge mistake in the beginning. Now, Adam Schiff goes on, and this part is actually before the piece that you just heard. And I'm taking it sort of out of context, but he's talking about the big crime that happened here. I just wanted to play it and see if you can't paste in another happenstance within history that we know of. It was reported on quite extensively at the time. Just see if you can remember what this sort of scenario he describes reminds you of. Adam Schiff.
To accept the attorney's representation that no crime was committed here, you have to accept Don Jr.'s representations if they went into that meeting. And here they want something. They want information from the Russians. The Russians want something. They want repeal of the sanctions law, the Magnitsky law. If there's any kind of an understanding that comes out of that meeting, you get us the dirt, you start leaking dirt on Hillary Clinton, and we will look favorably on repealing the Magnitsky Act. That is a very serious crime.
It's a very serious crime. If you go in and start making deals with foreign powers and then you're getting something from it, serious crime. I would like to know specifically what was promised and what the context of the conversation was when Barack Obama, as president of the United States, told the Russian government off mic, he thought he was off mic, he said, I'll have much more room when I'm reelected. Remember that? Would that have been a big crime? Could he be getting something personally? Should we have not looked into that, into the president of the United States selling influence? Is that a possibility of something that happened? Yeah. See, there's a lot of crime that happens in Washington. It just happens to be the only ones that ever get prosecuted are Republicans. Now, the left is, sometimes I have to say the left is just stupid. They don't really think. They don't know who they vote for. They don't know what the policies are. They simply vote monolithically by name, right? Not even the name of the person, but the name of the party. And frankly, most of them have no idea. And we're talking about the educated elite of the elite who have no idea what they're doing. And that's the only reason why Nancy Pelosi is still in office. She is just a flat moron. And now she's getting older. It's harder for her to, cover it up and keep it together. And apparently Nancy Pelosi had a couple of issues, and Democrats just keep shoving her out there as spokesperson. Maybe they're doing it to try to get rid of her. Maybe they figure if they can get her in front of enough people looking stupid, then eventually she'll either realize that she looks stupid and step down herself, or the constituencies within her district will say, this gal is just nuts and she's insane, and we should move on to get somebody else. Maybe that's why they're doing it. Who knows? But the House Minority Leader repeatedly misspoke during a brief section of remarks with her colleagues late Friday, and at one point awkwardly froze up.
Actions of the Trump administration as related to the rule of the law. That the Trump administration and the Trump family have eagerly intended to collude a hostile foreign policy to influence an American election. Members of Congress take a sacred oath. What do the Russians have politically, financially, or any personally on Donald Trump that he fawns over Putin, questions sanctions, is reckless when it comes to Article 5. I also called for the revoking of the security clearance for Jared Kushner. It's absolutely ridiculous that he should have that clearance. Today we are announcing a new coordinated effort to force votes to get answers for the American people. We will force Republicans to take votes on the record to continue from hiding the facts from the American people. House Republicans will have to answer for their actions, and one of the questions they will some of the questions they will have to answer will be posed by our colleagues.
What a zombie-like creature you must be to vote for this woman. Because, these videos of her misspeaking and just not being very smooth, so to speak, have been around for quite a while, and people are saying, well, she's falling apart. No. Every video that I've ever seen, every time I've ever heard her speak, she sounds exactly the same. She is an idiot from the word go. And the fact that you keep voting for her means there's something wrong with you. So who are we going to get? Who's going to be better than these people? Who's going to be better than Paul Ryan? What options do we have as voters on new types of representation? Well, how about... My name is Rock. Yep. Kid Rock, real name Robert James Ritchie. He hasn't formally announced anything yet, but it's like there's a lot of buzz going around that he's going to run for Senate. Kid Rock for Senate. I mean, we already have Al Franken, who's a complete waste of space. Why not Kid Rock? I don't know. I mean, look, drugs and the hair and whatever it is. Okay, I'd see that might be a problem. Although, and I don't know the guy personally, he hangs out with Hank Williams Jr., so you got to put that in the okay column. You know what I'm saying? They shoot cannons, like a real one, like a Civil War type cannon, just boom, and which would be a hell of a good time. Ritchie on Monday revealed his possible plans for the future in a tweet. The tweet said, "I believe if you work your butt off and pay taxes, you should be able to easily understand the laws, tax codes, healthcare, and anything else the government puts in place that affects us all." I don't have a problem with that. It's kind of common sense, right? You shouldn't need an attorney standing between you and the law for you to understand it. You shouldn't have to pay for that, right? And you should be able to sort of represent yourself and understand what's going on. There's so many laws out there and so many differences in the law. I mean, the Constitution isn't what you think it is. The Constitution is something like 3,200 pages long now because of all the decisions that have been made, and those have the effect of constitutional law. So you really, when you look at the Constitution, you read the Constitution, you read the Bill of Rights, you have no idea what those mean because you have no idea how they've been interpreted. You would have to know those 3,200 pages for you to have a basis of what your rights are within our society. How many people know that? Not very many. And imagine how much different it would be if kids, as part of high school, were taught the tax codes, were taught the laws, were taught how healthcare works, and what the things the government does and how they do it and what your rights are in relation to that. And taught it in a very dynamic way so that everyone understands, as part of graduating high school, everyone has a firm understanding of their place legally within this society. And then, as they turn 18, they'll be able to start molding those things as they see fit. I mean, they've had to live under this regime up until this point, and now they understand what the regime's all about. They get some ideas about how to change that and rework things to make it more simple or more understandable, and then they do so. That way, everybody's more free. Look, you can't play the game unless you know the rules, right? And the government has set it up in such a way where no one can possibly know what the rules of the game are. So you don't know whether you're a criminal or not. And now they've got all this surveillance that they don't even need a warrant for, that they can find you having done something wrong and throw your ass in jail and just disappear you if you become more powerful than they want you to be. If you become more influential than they want you to be, you'll just disappear. And it'll all be legal. Wouldn't it be nice if that was impossible because everybody understood their role in society? Yeah. Someone broke into a Republican senator's office leaving a chilling message. My name is King. No, that wasn't it. Sorry. It's the wrong button. Someone broke into a Republican congressman's office in order to leave a chilling message about his pivotal vote on the Senate Republicans' Obamacare repeal bill. Vote on health care. Let me restate. Vote no on health care bill or I will lose my health care and die, and you will too. Sound like a Tea Party member? Yeah, Oh, no? Okay. This is who you're dealing with. This is the level of thought that you're dealing with. And by the way, this is the moral authority that the left thinks they have in relation to politics. That if they want it, they have the moral authority, because they're right. They have the moral authority to go out and influence through terror. That's what the left, that's what the Democrats believe. And it's coming from society, but really it's coming from schools. Here in Kansas today, I haven't seen any stories on what the actual outcome was. The Supreme Court of the state of Kansas is once again taking up school funding. The state of Kansas spends a little bit over $4 billion annually funding public schools, namely high schools and what have you. And apparently that's not enough, and is forcing the government to spend more and more money. Because schools are not about educating kids. Schools are a way to extract money from the American people and hand it to constituencies that you love. The teachers in this country, I have no respect for. I don't care if you've been a teacher and a wonderful person for a long time. I don't care, okay? None of that is important. I have to lump you in to this horrible group of Nazis called schools. If you do not have the intestinal fortitude to look at what's happening at schools and completely walk away from it, then you are a bad person. And I have no respect for you. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Schools are atrocious. It's not just that they don't do their job in educating kids. It's not just that they wake up every day trying to figure a way to screw the constituency out of even more money. It's the fact that they propagandize children into believing things that either are non-factual or religious in nature, like global warming, or they're destroying society through instilling socialistic views of the world. They lie to children. They hurt children. They hurt the future of America. The future of this country and the success of kids today is vastly worse than it has been in the past, simply because of the educational system and the teachers that are involved. Sorry, just stating facts. But kids need an education, right? Kids need, oh my God, they need to learn to educate. They're being, USA Today piece. The good news on America's report cards, more high school teachers are handing out A's. But the bad news is that students aren't necessarily learning. Recent findings show that a portion of high school seniors graduating with an A average that includes A minuses or A pluses has grown sharply over the past generation. Oh. Except for SAT scores have fallen. Nearly half of America's class of 2016 are A students. Nearly half. Meanwhile, their average SAT score has fallen from 1,026 to 1,002 on a 1,600-point scale. It's amazing. All these kids are getting A's. Well, they should be getting higher SAT scores, right? Revelation comes as the USA public high schools graduate a record number of students. The average high school graduation rate now tops 83%. 83%. So they're just handing out A's and graduating kids and moving them along because they get more funding, they get more money, they stay, they get more tenures, they get more locked into the system when they graduate kids and give them A's. This is about money. This is about funding. If they gave funding away for failing students, every student in America would be failing. Right? That's what would happen. That's the truth. That's how this is. Every student in America would be failing if that's how teachers made money. If that's how education unions make money, by having failing students. Truth is, money does not improve education. Money and education are completely two separate things. And any time that you have an I agree, the education system in this country sucks. But if you come out and say, well, we need to put more money in it to fix the education system, then you're not serious about educating kids, and you certainly don't give a shit about them. You don't. If you wanted to fix education, you would tell the kids, look, and the families, you're going to pay for it yourself. You are going to pay for your education because something given has no value. And because you're paying for it, mom and dad are going to be very interested in how well you're doing. And they are going to insist on learning and insist on excellence. That's really simple. You know, people talk about the problems in our society and the dumber our kids are, and we're falling behind, and we don't have the engineers and scientists that we used to have. You're right. We don't. We're falling behind. Why? Because we have free education. Something given has no value, and kids do not see a value in education. And when mom and dad they get it for free. It's not free. Somebody pays for it. It's free to them, and that's all that counts. It's free to them. And when they're not paying for it, then there's no value. And the schools in this country have essentially become daycares, and in many places, very dangerous daycares. And they're churning out a bunch of dangerous people. You know, people complain about radicalization of people on the internet, and then they become terrorists for Islam. They go over and do the ISIS thing. I worry more about the radicalization of students, radicalization of young people in this country because of what the schools are teaching them, what they're learning in colleges, what they're learning in high schools, what they're learning from popular culture, and what's accepted by the Democrat Party. Jesse Waters, Fox News. Did he take over for Bill O'Reilly? Is that what happened? Anyway, he's got his new Fox News show, and he had a young Antifa member from Boston who recently wrote a letter calling on fellow anti-Trump comrades to use violence to oust President Donald Trump. You know who Antifa is. They say, we're anti-fascist, and it really sort of angers me because they don't even understand what fascism is. At its very root, fascism is it's the inverse of tolerance. Tolerance and fascism are related, and they are the opposites of one another. And there is no tolerance on the left. They have none of that. And they are the fascists. Right-leaning people tolerate. They talk. They may not change their mind, but they tolerate and they don't beat you up. They don't physically attack people. The left it can't be said about the left. They will attack you. They will attack your family. And they do so because they're religious zealots. They're fascist religious zealots. And they believe themselves to have a higher moral authority, and that moral authority allows them to kill you because you're not even human. But this has been going on for a while. A lot of things happen on college campi, a lot of people being attacked, and these videos are going around out there, and it's starting to look bad. And this young person, once they get on Fox News, has this to say about the violence from Antifa.
You got to take my word for it. It is in self-defense against right-wing aggression. A lot of violence committed by so-called Antifa members is actually committed by these right-wingers who basically seek to make us look bad. It's these right-wing infiltrators. You see it all the time.
Right, you see it all the time. You're just going to have to take my word for it. It's the right wing. It's not us. Give me a break. You know it looks bad, and you know what you're doing is wrong, but you're doing it anyway because no one's taught you any different. And we see it all over the country. Now, do we see a bright, shining, glimmering light of hope into the future? A Friday memo emailed from Washington's Evergreen State College administration to the student body said, quote, the actions taken by the social justice advocates on campus over the past few months, including intimidation and the prohibition of egress from school areas, have been illegal and could result in criminal charges. Well done. Well done. They should have been arrested already. According to the College Fix, Vice President of Student Affairs Wendy Endress wrote in a July 14th memo that the recent events by social justice warriors, students, have tarnished Evergreen State College's reputation to the point where enrollment has fallen. No one wants to go there anymore. Would you want to send your kids there? Would you allow them? Hey, I'm paying for your college. I'm not giving them a dime. No, you're not going there. Furthermore, Andrus noted that Washington legislators had introduced 2 bills to phase out public funding for Evergreen, turning the college into a private entity. And there you go. This is not coming from the president of the university. This is coming from the vice president of student affairs. Somebody had to speak up. And when did they speak up? When their funding was going to be cut. When people are starting to walk away from the school, when people are not enrolling in the school, so that funding mechanism is beginning to dwindle and go away. And when the government starts taking the money away, whoa, hold on, we're going to have to do something here. Hey, yeah, Antifa left, great, protest, all this, but you better quiet because we're losing money and we can't have that. Because schools are not about educating people, making them smarter, or giving them skills that they can use throughout in life. Schools these days are a way to steal money from you. All right, that's the end of the Michael Newman Show for today. Thank you so much for joining me. Please go to the website, michaelnewmanproductions.com. And there you can get the links to all the stories that I talked about in today's podcast. You can also contact me. Click the contact link and just send me an email. You can also Twitter me, Newmaniac1, Facebook, and YouTube as well. Check the services. And please, 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 please support the show. Click the support icon that takes you to Patreon, tells you all about it. And you can keep me going for as little as $1 a month. Have a great evening.
See ya.